Hello, everybody, and thank you once again, Forset, for inviting me here. What I really want to do with this talk is to sort of follow my journey, to do the kind of things that encourage you to love data, just to encourage you to explore data, explore your creativity in data viz. And you have to love data and to understand your tools and sort of get better to go back and do this really sort of important kind of work that the other speakers have been talking about. All right, so this photo kind of sums up me. That's not me at the front, that's Simon Beaumont, who is a Tableau Zen master, and he was giving a talk all about the importance of internal data communities and some amazing work he'd been doing back down in a hospital in Southampton. And I was sat at the front because I was really keen to learn from him. And I got my phone out and I made out like I was taking a photo of him. And I was paying attention, but really I just moved slightly to the right and I thought, oh, cool wallpaper. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could make a data visualization that looks like that wallpaper? So I found that a way. I actually haven't made a data visualization that looks like that yet, but that's still the kind of thing that I do. And my career's actually gone full circle because Simon has now moved and heads up a department at JLL, and I now work for him, and he still does amazing stuff. And I also like to sort of, in my day job, say how important it is to build up best practices and data communities and stuff like that. But in order to get my skills and my love of data, I still kind of like the stuff on the right, the fun stuff, the data visualization that can be about nothing in particular, or the data visualization that can look out of the ordinary, but that can really sort of improve your creative skills. All right, so I've mentioned this, that we're talking about unnecessary data visualization, but I'm going to start with, there's been a real proliferation of necessary stuff. We in the UK became very used to seeing visualizations like this on our screens most days, through COVID cases rising and things like that. In the US, and again also in the UK with elections, you would see data visualization after visualization. And I love the way that these things became more mainstream because they had to, the public needed to see things like this. And it also meant, for the first time in, I'm not going to tell you how many years, it meant my own mother understood my job. I could say data visualization, she used to say, oh, isn't that kind of a bit like sort of statistics? With apologies to Shanna before me, obviously there's a very clear distinction, but she then understood, oh, so you make charts like we see on the TV. Yeah, that's right, I make charts, and I sort of, encourage others to do the same and to do them well. But I've called this Celebrate the Unnecessary, and it's really sort of inspired by this book. I don't think it's a book that you'll find on the bookshelves, but it was by Andy Kirk. It was a book run that he did himself. And now Andy Kirk he's the guy behind Visualizing Data, the website, which is a real sort of great resource for all things data visualization. And he's written a big, thick book all about data visualization too. But he just wanted to go away and write a big, thick book full of data visualizations about his favorite TV program, Seinfeld. It's a US comedy from the 1990s. And he put in stuff all about who was in which episode, how long they all were, where the laughs were, all that kind of thing. And that's just what he wanted to do. He immersed himself in all the data he could find, and all the data he self-created from his favorite TV program, and he put it into a book. And I love the way he said an unnecessary data exploration, because really it is. No one really needed to know about that. But if you read it, if you're a fan of data visualization, you enjoy it and you enjoy seeing the insights there, even if they're not going to change your life. But you also get a real feeling of the joy Andy must have had creating these, getting all the curating all the data and putting this out into a book. Okay, so I'm going to move on to this next screen. This is a screen from Lisa Charlotte Muth. She used to be called Lisa Charlotte Rost, and she's from Data Wrapper, and has always done a series of great talks and blogs all about data visualization. In the goals of data visualization, she she makes the distinction between attention and beauty, understanding and implication. And now these are all important things, but depending on your role or depending on what your aim is, the chances are you want to pay sort of allocate your attention to all of these things in different amounts. So let me show you what I mean. Let's say you're doing data art. You're really going to sort of focus your attention on attention and beauty to get people to see your data visualization. You're not really so bothered about the understanding. So you just sort of want to put a bit of data art out there, and you are really interested in the implication, the reaction that your viewer is going to get from that. Whereas if you look at the goals of business slides, you should really be doing things completely the other way around. You don't want to focus on attention and beauty. You don't want people to be going, wow, look at how good this chart looks. You want them to go straight to the understanding. You want to be keeping it simple, and you want them to be able to take action from it, to understand what your chart is telling, and that for people to then go and then do what they need to do with the data. And so I thought about an unnecessary data viz. How would you sort of allocate your points to each of these things there? And really, unnecessary data viz, it's mostly about the first bit, attention and beauty. And the fact that it's unnecessary means that implication circle at the end is really small. You want to evoke feelings maybe, but you don't actually need people to go away and do things. You don't need people to make a decision about their life depending on what they've seen in a book about Seinfeld, that kind of thing. So this came in my talk yesterday, and I joked that it actually comes into most of my talks, and then, hey presto, here it is today. And I always say I don't say, Amanda Cox from the New York Times says there's a strand of the data viz world that argues everything could be a bar chart. And that is, yeah, it's hard to disagree with that. But if you're doing your own personal projects, if you want to get excited, if you want to get creative, necessary maybe, you might think that's a world without joy, and it's great to sort of explore other ways of visualizing your data. And it was great to sort of get vindication of that. Santiago Ortiz put up a tweet saying, graphs that are easy to read, well, that's noble, but he actually doesn't want to do that. He wants to put up graphs that it takes time for them to understand. It takes time for them to digest and read and enjoy. And Nadia Bremer, is there anyone better than her to sort of vindicate that, say, yeah, this is what I do as well. Nadia Bremer is half of the team, Nadia Bremer and Shirley Wu, who put together the amazing Data Sketches project. You can see it online. I think it's datasketch.es, and there's also a book around it, and it's full of really sort of creative and wonderful data visualizations to look at. And here's my example. I'm slightly biased to Viz for Social Good. It's an organization that's close to my heart, literally. And this is by Sam Parsons. He visualized anything and everything to do with all of the submissions to that particular project. And you can just look at this, and there's no way that you can understand it in 30 seconds. You would start by going, wow, and then it takes you a while to really sort of look through, understand what every individual point and color and line means, and all the explanation is there. So why would you actually make unnecessary data explorations? And what do they allow you to do? Why if you wanted to go and do a personal data visualization project, would you do something that maybe falls into this informal category? And I mean, there are lots of reasons here. I'm going to take you through them one by one, as you can sort of see by the bullet points. But really, there's crossover between them all. A lot of projects you will probably be ticking off 3, 4, 5 of these different boxes. So I've started with celebrate nostalgia. I guess that's what Andy was doing too. I looked into, and a lot of this comes from sort of thinking tangentially. There was a contest all to do with literature, and I thought, well, I'm a bit of a mathematician. I haven't read very many books, but I remember these sort of colorful books when I was a kid. And I looked into them, and I noticed they're all different colors, and some of them had different color noses and some of them didn't. And that became my visualization. I recorded that. I got all the details off the internet. I put them all in a sort of square block formation. And I loved what came out. It was fun. It's absolutely meaningless. But I put it onto posters, and it adorns a few of my friends' children's bedrooms, and I even sort of proudly wear it on a t-shirt at the age of 49 around town. So it's just a bit of fun, just to sort of celebrate nostalgia, if you like. It allows you to go back and look at things you otherwise wouldn't normally see in visualization. I've shown this because I think it's a much more tasteful, better version of a similar thing. It's by Marion Ahrens, and she's done something similar, all about the colors of the Tintin books. And again, that makes this a really sort of enjoyable piece of visualization to look at. And then I put take inspiration. And so what I mean by this is it just gives you a chance to, if you see something that you like and you think is cool, to maybe think, well, I wonder if I can emulate that in some kind of way. These are two of many images from Saskia Freek, who is I guess she's a digital artist, and every day, I think about every day for 5 years, she's put out a sort of generated digital piece like this. And I saved 2 of them because I thought, oh, I like these shapes, I like these color schemes. I wonder if I could ever sort of come up with data visualization that looks like this, but it is data driven. And then this came along by another one of my influences, Sonia Kipesh, and she just wanted to visualize her favorite book, which has 12 chapters. And I mean, I can't get into everything this means, but every shape represents a different character, I think, and the size and the pieces that come off it all sort of represent different conversations that were had during that chapter. And I just thought, what a fun way to visualize a book and your favorite book. So I sort of combined the 2 ideas. I picked my favorite book, which is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams, and I looked at the colors and the kind of geometrical quarter circle ideas from Saskia, and I looked at the idea of splitting everything into its chapter and looking at the words and conversations from Sonia. And I just came up with my own thing, which is almost completely meaningless, unnecessary. But I really enjoyed the findings that I came up with. I enjoyed the fact that if I applied rules to it of who spoke and how often and how many, that you would get a lot of very different different visualizations in each square. And that was all that I wanted to do. You can dive deep. I said you can dive really deep. I decided, let's show you the next screen there, back last year in lockdown, I had data from one of my favorite albums, but again back in the 1990s, and I had all the words and all the sentences and things like that, and I thought, well, I wonder if there's a way that I can just visualize an album. And I was getting a bit stuck. I couldn't think how, and I said to myself, come on, Neil, there must be plenty of ways. I bet you could actually, if you put your mind to it, come up with a different way every day for the month. So I set myself the challenge. I challenged myself to do it in May. May is 31 days, so it wasn't very long before I wish I'd done it in February. But anyhow, I thought, I can't be too precious about this. I need to come up with 31 different creative ways of showing something which is completely unnecessary. The words, the titles, the different things in was ultimately a very I chose also an album which it's not a very serious album, so it felt like the right thing to do. So I started simple, sort of visualizing, I think, all the words and how big they were. Straight away, I was committed to the fact that we had 19 songs, there were 19 colors. So I was already breaking a rule here, but I thought I need to stick to this kind of all the way through. And my audience was really becoming not sort of data visualization aficionados, but people who were wondering if I was going to be able to come up with 31 of these things, or people who liked the music, and the band themselves were started to get interested in what I was doing. So it really just sort of opened people's eyes to a bit of fun. I went to Flourish for this, and I found a chord chart. So I was looking for all different types of visualizations that I could include. within 31 days, I had the chance to sort of try and emulate some of my other favorite visualizations. So in the bottom right there is a visualization by Tiziana Alocci, who used all the words and music within, I think it was some kind of German dance band, to create a visualization that went on the album cover. And I thought, well, I can do that, or I can do something similar. I had to go sort of quite niche, if you like. I came up with this kind of Hydra visualization, which looked at how words were repeating and words weren't, and it came up with some very different lines for different for the different songs. But I quite like the way it came out. And so all this time I was learning new stuff. Certainly a number of those things were things that I'd never tried before. A stream chart, I wouldn't have even known how to start, but I thought, crikey, I've got to think of new chart types or new things that will look quite cool for this. So I found raw graphs, and I did my first stream chart. And in order to do that, I had to curate a bit more data to determine which part of the song each of the lines were in. And I really liked the way that one came out. Again, I sort of went to a sort of bendy type bar chart to try and look like one of their album covers, which I would never really have thought of doing before. And I found Flourish again to do a radial dendron. I can barely say it, let alone it was a new chart type for me, a dendrogram, so like a tree diagram. And so we got a really nice effect there as well. And so just sort of giving myself this challenge of coming up with as many different ways to visualize something, which ultimately it wasn't necessary. It wasn't something that people needed to see or were waiting on the results for, but it sort of gave me so much to do with the data and so much sort of creative ideas. I think I've got one more to show there. This one I was inspired by Oddity Viz, which is a gorgeous set of black and white illustrations by Miriam Quick and Valentina De Filippo, all around David Bowie's Space Oddity. So I came up with something sort of quite similar to that, although using the color scheme that I've been using. And I went into Procreate, which is a graphics package, to do some of the hand-drawn bits. And that's, as a non-artist, to me, that was terrifying, but I just felt I had to go slightly outside my comfort zone. So that's it. My next section here, I've got go Lite Touch. You might have seen this in my talk yesterday. There really is no reason why you have to be sort of highbrow about this. I just wanted to look at some Sesame Street data, and I ended up finding something which really works very well to look at, to emulate this the Big Bird character. But within this, and this might sort of satisfy the bar charts, bar chart people, there is analytical data if you want. So I hid bar charts in it under the tooltip. So if you wanted to look at the distribution of all the letters and numbers, which is ultimately what was driving this chart, you could actually see it there. And so you could see that Sesame Street has been brought to you by the letter D, was actually on 299 episodes over the years. Now I've included this. This is by Adam Green. Adam Green did a whole project along with Laura Sanford. So between them, they each picked a letter of the alphabet and just had to come up with a sort of fun themed visualization. So this was from Adam. He went for K is for king at the top there, so that he could do something along the King of the Mountains classification. And he's come up with just a sort of really geometric visualization. And just to sort of draw attention to what he says at the top, it's almost apologetic. This viz is just for fun. It breaks data viz best practice approaches, but I wanted to get creative with geometric shapes using the drawing tool for Tableau. And that's exactly what unnecessary data visualization is for you to have fun, for you to break the rules, but to get creative and learn how to do stuff while doing so. And he actually said, I've repeatedly questioned myself, should I be publishing such light touch visualizations? Again, this was in COVID time, and really the visualizations that we should have been publishing were perhaps to do with COVID-19. But he said, I did it because I needed the distraction, and maybe others did too. So I love that. He's he's thought about it, he's questioned it, which maybe goes back to my other talk, and he said, no, I think there's a place for this, and it helped him, and he hopes that it helps others. Just going to quickly go through the last stuff because I'm conscious of the time here. It just gives you a chance to be unconventional, and you've probably seen most of this stuff as unconventional as well. So I started looking at visualizing just all the notes in music. So no analysis, but what do they look like if you display them radially? And this is me displaying all the notes radially in whole planets, and why not put them around the actual planets themselves? Similarly, I came up with some radial ideas for Pachelbel's canon, and I love the fact that there's that repeated pattern among the black notes, the cello parts that you can see there, while there are patterns that rotate all the way around through the others as well. And I'll spare you, but I also have an animated version of this with music. It's really just a case to dive into something unnecessary and immerse yourself in data. And similarly, and this probably, I don't know how well this shows up, but you can do great stuff just looking at numbers. Even if you don't have a data set, you can look at numbers. This is looking at the decimal fractions of all the numbers from 1 to 100 and looking at the patterns they make as they go on decimal walks, and it came up with something quite amazing. And I've just put and finally, this was sort of introducing another one that I showed in my talk yesterday. Just taking inspiration. So, all right, this wasn't a wallpaper in a conference room, but this was an obscure classical album cover that I found while I was sort of Googling through images, sort of vintage images from the 60s. And I thought, you know what, I could make that into a data visualization. I just need to find some data, get an idea of what kind of metrics would fit okay with that, and then just display that and with a nod back to the original. And I can have a lot of fun doing that. So that's it. I just crowbarred in my latest slide there. I couldn't think of a more subtle way of doing it. A lot of what I've talked about here features quite heavily in my book, which I'm almost finished writing, as well as a lot of the stuff that I sort of introduced in my workshop yesterday as well. So Questions in Data Viz at the moment is a blog where I tend to sort of put some of my stuff on, but I'm also going to turn it into a book coming shortly. But that's the last slide from me. Thank you, and apologies for misshowing those first few slides, but I hope you still got the drift of what I was saying. Thank you.